You always get the one out. So, welcome. As you can all see, it might say that I am Emma, Chief Rebel, but I'm quite clearly not Emma, Chief Rebel. She's unfortunately not very well tonight, so needs pajamas and a cup of tea. But in the grand old Britishness that we do, we will carry on regardless, but send Emma lots of love on the back of this. I have with me the wonderful Paul Wolstenholme, who has, have I pronounced that right, Paul? Is it Wolstenholme?
Really? Wolstenholme, yes.
Wolstenholme. It's a no, not a you. And Paul has agreed to do a wonderful masterclass with us regarding how to say goodbye to life scripts and get to know yourself for a new meaning, which I loved the title. I thought it was an absolutely fabulous title. So Paul and I just had a discussion, and he's more than happy for us to throw in questions, and he's going to talk us through what he does and how he does it, his journey to where he is now, and then give us something very practical to take away that will take us into that self-help arena. So, Paul, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes, and yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me. And I suppose the first thing for me to say is that I feel quite uncomfortable about labelling this as a masterclass, and that's nothing derogatory about your marketing or anything. It's just how I feel, because I don't think I'm a master of anything, actually, other than possibly eating chocolate. I'm pretty good at that. So yeah, you know, I've had some training, I've had some experiences, and I'm very happy to share that, and hopefully it will be useful to at least one person, but certainly I'm not a master. But anyway, yeah, thank you for having me. So just to introduce myself, I'm a psychotherapist and a mental health first aid instructor. And I found my way to this work through a windy road of all sorts of different jobs, most of which were just jobs, to be honest, Lisa, as I said to you last week when we spoke. And yeah, there was something missing for me, and that missing thing was really meaning, and I really feel like I found that now. I love what I do. I feel a real privilege to be able to do what I do, and I look forward to Monday mornings, which is a really refreshing place to be. So yeah, I'll say a little bit about my journey, not too much, but really more about how these life scripts come about, I suppose. And I'm very happy to have this as a kind of open discussion. So if anyone wants to chip in with questions or comments, please feel free to do so. And then have a look at a bit of framework around how I can work with my clients around overcoming these scripts and really connecting with their own unique nature and soul and purpose. And then at the end, as you said, we can do a visualization, which you're very welcome to join in with if you wish. So hopefully that's sounding okay. Are we doing okay so far, Lisa?
Yes, absolutely perfect.
Okay, smashing. Okay, so I think the first thing to say is about conditioning. And we're all conditioned through our culture, through our upbringing, through the messages that we get from the people around us, our teachers, our parents, the media, and certainly social media these days is very influential. And I think that it starts very young, you know. We get subjected to so many messages that say, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to look, this is how you're supposed to behave, this is the kind of career ladder that you're supposed to climb in order to be happy. And very often it doesn't play out that way. So I've just got this curiosity, I suppose, about where this comes from and why we accept it so readily. So this is what I want to kind of unpick today, if possible. And if we think about the education system, you know, I used to be a teacher, and my understanding of the vast majority of our education system in this country is that it's Victorian. It has barely changed since the Victorian times. And the Victorian education system was there to, first of all, get children into some kind of education so that they're not under the parents' feet, but also to prepare them to work in a mill or a factory or one of those type of jobs that were available at the time. So it really isn't fit for purpose now, where we don't have that kind of economy, and many of us choose either to work in creative industries or work for ourselves or not work at all, maybe. So I think the education system starts us off and tries to force a lot of round pegs into square holes. And I remember one of my teacher colleagues sharing some kind of meme with me before memes were a thing. I don't think there was even a word meme at the time, but it was something about judging fish by their ability to climb a tree, you know. So
yes, I've seen that one. Yeah.
So we can judge monkeys by their ability to climb trees or whatever, but we're not all monkeys. Some of us are fish, and some of us are other types of creatures. We're all very unique. So that it doesn't work, you know, and very often if we are a creative person, or perhaps we're not neurotypical, or we're just not interested in physics and maths and science and all the things that we have to learn and have to pass these exams in, we're going to be deemed a failure. And imagine how big of an impact that's going to have on a vulnerable young child, because we all want to fit in. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We want to do well. We feel the pressure from our teachers, from our peers, from our parents, perhaps, to succeed. And if we're not fitting into that square hole because we are a round peg, then we're starting life on the back foot.
And it's also that need to succeed, isn't it, at a very early age? Because I remember back at high school at 16-year-old going to a careers advisor and being asked what I wanted to do when I grew up. I'm in my 40s now, and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, if I'm brutally honest with you. But it's almost like making those decisions there and then on a skill set that you haven't even built up yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that. And likewise, I didn't know what I wanted to be up until I was, well, probably 6 or 7 years ago. I didn't know. So I spent most of my life doing just jobs, you know, and following this script that you need to pass these exams and you need to go to university and you need to get yourself a career and climb up the ladder. And to a certain extent, I did. I bought into that, as many of us do. But how can we be expected to choose what we want to do when, first of all, we are molded by our education system, our parents, the people around us, to fit this very narrow understanding of what you should be and what success looks like. And at the age of 16 or 18, where we haven't had a great amount of life experience, it seems very topsy-turvy to me. And I think it would be much better if we followed the Scandinavian model, which just allows children to be who they are. A lot of the education, especially in the early years, is just around play. There's no agenda. They're just allowing children to be children instead of forcing them through this exam factory, which just might not ring their bells. It might not be where their strengths lie. Yeah, so then, you know, for me and for many other people, I think we then get on the careers ladder and we end up doing jobs that we either fall into, or we're perhaps attracted by the money, or it's something our parents did, or there's something that leads us down the road which perhaps isn't really enjoyable. It's not bringing us any meaning or purpose, and is out of line with who we are and what we really connect with. So, you know, I think of people who are into things like music or arts or dance, and yeah, they might do a bit of that at school and they might go to an after-school club or something, but how many people are actually encouraged to follow that as a career, to follow their heart? And then, so you end up being an accountant or a marketing consultant, whatever it is, and this is, again, not to disparage any careers, because some people enjoy that, some people are happy, it's enough for them doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Some people are very happy driving lorries, working in Tesco, there's nothing wrong with that. But if the scripts are keeping us small, and the only thing that we've got driving us forward is this thing of, I need to work hard, I need to stay late so that my boss approves of me, and then I'll get a promotion, and then I can get some more money. Yeah, I'll burn myself out, but I can get some more money so I can buy a bigger house and a nicer car and go on these holidays and put the photos on social media to show everyone what a wonderful life I'm having. But ultimately, inside, we might feel hollow or unfulfilled, or that there's something missing. And that's kind of what happened for me. So yeah, we're constantly pursuing status symbols, we're pursuing promotions, we're working harder, and maybe we have children of our own and we don't spend that much time with them because we're at work, or when we're at home, we're completely green crackered because we've spent all our energy trying to do well at work. And we behave, I think, many of us in ways that really betray our true selves. And it is this conditioning which is just becomes very deep rooted because it starts so early in life. And it's about we need to be a certain way in order to fit in and be accepted.
It almost builds a failure mindset, doesn't it? Because I may be an accountant or any job, as you said, you go through life with jobs where I know I desperately want to step away, but I'm frightened to do that because it's created this, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And if I step away from that, what's going to happen? That's the unknown. So it almost keeps you shackled into it for some people for decades.
Yeah, it's a very restrictive mindset, Lisa. Yeah, it's a good point. And it does keep us shackled. And many of us are fearful of change. And for me, when I'd spent years in careers climbing the ladder and acquiring the stuff, which I found didn't make me happy at all. Where was I going with that? I've lost my thread there.
That's me. I tend to do that and not people off. I do apologize.
No, it's not you. It's, as I was saying earlier, I'm a little bit tired at the moment, so I'm not on top form. But if it's important, it will come back to me. But yeah, effectively, we say, that's what it was. We're afraid of change. We're afraid of change. Change is scary. It can be very scary. And if we've got a well-paying job and we've got a big mortgage on our lovely house, and we've perhaps sent our children off to expensive schools, or we've got these holidays that we want to pay for, and diamond earrings and whatever else we need to do to attempt to feel better or show the world that we're enjoying our lives, then there's a lot of pressure there financially. And we think, well, yeah, if I actually leave this job that I've been working in for 20 years or whatever, and follow my passion to become an actor or whatever it may be, the fear is I'll never make that money, or it's too late for me, or I will have to sacrifice X, Y, and Z, money, status symbols, or whatever they are, in order to make that a reality. So I totally empathize with people when they say, it feels too scary, and this feels safe doing what I'm doing. So many people choose that path. And again, I'm not criticizing that. But for many people, when they reach our time of life, midlife, there is some kind of awakening. Some people call it a midlife crisis. I prefer to see it as a spiritual awakening, when we think, gosh, is this all there is, actually? This 9 to 5, which for many people ends up being an 8 till 7 plus Saturday mornings. Is this all there is? I don't feel fulfilled at work. I don't feel I'm making a difference in the world. And all of those things that I used to love, that brought me joy as a child or a teenager or whatever it was, I don't feel that anymore. I'm disconnected from it. So this very often is where we can start to question that and potentially make some changes. And for some people, that might be following a spiritual path, going into meditations and retreats and trying to reconnect with a side of themselves which perhaps they've lost touch with. For other people, it might be going into therapy. I see a lot of clients who follow this path. They've got to a certain point, maybe the children are getting older, they're just feeling dissatisfied with their lives at home, their lives at work. There's this yearning inside them for something more. They're not really sure what it is sometimes, but their soul is crying out for more. And this is when they start questioning all the scripts of all this stuff that I was told, all the stuff that my parents taught me, with all good intentions. You know, we all do our best as parents, and I think we're all bound to fail in some way because we're all products of our own parenting, our own experiences. But all the stuff that we've been told, the conditioning that we've had, we start to question sometimes in midlife. And yeah, it can be a life crisis point, and people can feel really low, really depressed, really anxious, fearful of change, and also really regretful of, oh gosh, you know, I've wasted the last 20 years or whatever it is. So that forms quite a lot of my clinical work as a psychotherapist, and also resonates with my own experience. And I don't know if I'll pause there in case Lisa or Paul or anyone wants to chip in and with any of that.
Yeah, and it is, and I think age is a big factor of that, because when you are younger, you haven't got that life experience, and you've got that expectation, haven't you, of paying the bills, paying the mortgage, bringing your children up, and everything else. So it becomes a scary world. So it can actually make you feel like less of a person if you think, I want to follow my dream. Because we're told, aren't we? And I know my parents, it was, oh, that's just a dream. Oh, you'll never do that. Oh, Lisa, you'll never be a ballerina. Oh, no, I won't, because I've been told I won't. Whereas allowing those thoughts to free fall, and knowing that you can have a plan, but it doesn't have to be a plan that's driven by success, that's driven by money. It can be a fulfillment plan, to be able to say, actually, this is what is going to help me feel like I've had a fulfilled life. But I suppose it's the steps of how to get there and not feel like you're a failure in that.
That's right. And it can be a long process, and it's a courageous process, I think, to open up that Pandora's box, if you like, and start to examine what we've been told. And is this right for me? Does this feel right for me? Do I want something different? Do I want something more? But the whole of our society, the capitalist system, is based on making people feel that they aren't enough. You know, so if you turn the television on this evening and watch some adverts, every single advert, I think, is trying to get you to buy something, whether it's a product or an experience, or to change something about how you look. And it's all telling you, the message behind that is, you are not enough as you are. You know, you've got wrinkles, you've got grey hair. You need to cover them up. You need to put Botox in your lips, because your lips are not good enough as they are. You need to come on this holiday, otherwise, you know, because a wet weekend of camping in Derbyshire isn't enough, you know. And it's beer is an interesting one, or any alcohol advert. You know, if you look at it, it's always a group of very beautiful people, usually young people, in a setting that's very vibrant. They're having a whale of a time, and they're all full of joy and diamonds and everything else. And
doesn't show you the morning after, though, does it, Paul? It doesn't show you that element of it. It does not show you that picture.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to get on a high horse, but, you know, alcohol is a drug, like any other drug. And the reality for most people who drink alcohol is not like the shiny things that they're trying to sell us. They're trying to sell us a lifestyle and say, yeah, if you drink this beer or this vodka, you will have this lifestyle. And we can get sucked in very easily. And the reality is very different. So yeah, that's what capitalism is based upon. It's about consumption and driving endless consumption of more expensive cars, bigger houses, better holidays, whatever it is. And it's, you know, the latest iPhone. You know, you're not enough unless you've got the latest model. So not everyone buys into this, but it is a very powerful script. It's a very powerful message that we get inundated with every day, and not just by television advertising. It's all over social media, and it's inherent in society, and it's starting even in primary schools now, where children are getting teased for having an old phone or not having a phone. You know, so people feel
not having a phone. Yeah. Yeah.
So it all feels very topsy-turvy to me, and there's something that we're disconnecting from. And for me, it's two things. It's our own nature, it's our own soul that we're disconnecting from when we're selling out to these ideas and ideals. And it is also nature, the external nature. You know, we're so disconnected from our environments. And I heard something the other day that the average child spends 6 to 8 hours on screens these days. And when I was a lad, you know, there weren't screens other than a television with 3 or 4 channels on it. That was it. But, you know, you perhaps watch children's television between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock.
It's a set time during the day. Yes, you come home from school, have your tea and watch your TV programs, and that was it. Yeah, or Saturday morning TV whilst you had your cereal bowl and your pajamas. Yeah.
That's it. Multicoloured swap shop or Tiswas, that was the choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, I'm not saying television is evil or screens are evil or phones are evil, but they are a double-edged sword, these things. And the disconnection, not just in children, in all of us, I think, is that we're not spending very much time outside. We're not spending much time in nature. You know, I remember my summer holidays as a child. I would just be off after breakfast and I'd be out all day until the street lights came on, and it was great. And I was
until you heard your mum calling from the back door, you'd think, gotta go in now.
Yeah, no, you had to be there by the time the street lights came on, otherwise there was trouble. But yeah, we don't spend time outdoors, and in disconnecting from nature, we're disconnecting from something of our own nature. So there's a real connection there in that disconnection.
Absolutely. So you said you've gone through this and you've experienced the scripts and the shackles. How did you start to break free from that? How did you kind of go, actually, this isn't fulfilling me and I want to have a fulfilled life? How did that start for you?
Well, thank you for the question. It was a long kind of knocking. Like someone was knocking on my head for a long time, and I didn't know at first what it was. I just felt a discontent. I knew there was something missing. I wasn't feeling fulfilled at work, but there was something more than that, something very fundamental for me. And having children was the first step for me of thinking, gosh, wow, there is more to life than work and accumulating stuff. And that was the beginning for me when I retrained as a teacher. Well, I had children and I thought, wow, this is meaningful. Retrained as a teacher, and that felt meaningful as well. But got sucked back into the corporate world for various reasons. And yeah, you know, I experienced discontent within myself. I experienced mental ill health. And for me, the springboard to transformation was through connecting to my spiritual side, which I just didn't even know existed at the time. But I believe we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. But again, we're disconnected. Many of us are disconnected from the spiritual side of life. So yeah, it was a week-long retreat that I went to. It's not really a retreat, it's not really a personal development course, but something called the Hoffman process, which I'm constantly banging on about. It worked for me, it might not work for everyone, but for me, you know, it helped me understand all of these things that we've just been talking about, of the conditioning I'd had as a child, and not to blame my parents or their parents, but, you know, all of this has been passed down the line through the generations of, this is what you've got to do. You've got to work hard. You've got to do all of these things, fit yourself into this box and don't complain. Just get on with it and feel grateful for it. And I saw a different side of life starting to unfold on that course. And then through several years of spiritual practices such as meditation and yoga and going on retreats and lots of reflection, and also several years of psychotherapy, that's all helped me to reconnect to my soul nature and what's important for me, what my priorities are, what brings me joy in life. And through that, it's been a long journey, and I have to say I'm not there yet. You know, this is work in progress for me. But as I said earlier, I now feel like I found my calling. And it's been knocking on my head for a long while, and I ignored it for a long while. But once I finally got to the point, and I remember the exact moment, Lisa, it was about 7 years ago. I went on a end of year retreat, a Buddhist kind of yoga and meditation retreat in Yorkshire. And we were there on New Year's Eve, and we had a ritual around a fire, and we all were invited to write our intentions for the year ahead and put it on a piece of paper, and then I think, if I remember rightly, we threw it into this fire. Hello, Cheryl, welcome. And hello. So for me, I don't know what it was, but maybe the days leading up to that, I just got myself into a space and something shifted for me. Because at that point, I knew I wanted to train as a psychotherapist, but I didn't know how to do it. Well, I didn't know how I was going to make it happen logistically, because it was a 5-year training. It's a massive investment, energy-wise, time-wise, financially as well. How was I going to make this work? How was I going to finance it? And in the end, just on that retreat, I thought, do you know what? I have to do this. I have to do this. I don't want to be sitting on my deathbed wishing that I'd followed my heart here. So I thought, I'm just going to find a way to do it. And for me, that was selling my house. It's the only real asset that I had. I thought, I'm just going to sell the house and use that money to put me through the training. And in the meantime, trained as a mental health first aid instructor as well. And both of those forms of work bring me joy and meaning and purpose. And it's all been part of this ongoing journey to connecting with what's right for me and disconnecting from all of those scripts that had been so limiting for me for such a long time.
Yeah, and it is quite good. So Cheryl, just to bring you up to speed very, very quickly on that. Paul is just talking about all those life scripts that get put in place from kind of when you're small and when you're a young child of, you know, you must be successful, you must have a career, you must earn the money, you must have the mortgage, you must everything else, and how you always get to that certain point in life where that's not actually fulfilling, but you've got stuck in such a cycle that actually it's very difficult to break out of that cycle because it's a scary world. It doesn't bring with it that security blanket. It's a massive change, and inherently as human beings we don't do change particularly well because it's not how our brains have been mapped through the life scripts that we have, but all about the importance of breaking free from that and ultimately finding that fulfillment path. And I know you yourself, Cheryl, have been subject to that. You've gone through some seismic changes in finding your happy path in life and your fulfillment.
Definitely, and that's huge, Paul. Like, I mean, it wasn't to the extreme of having to sell house to fund and things like that, but it did, you know, result in a family having to take, like just being cautious over a few month period and kind of really thinking of, we had to, sit down and as a family and kind of go, right, actually, what's worst case scenario, and make sure that we could handle that, because actually my headspace and happiness was far more important than the material things. But yeah, absolutely. That's off to you, Paul. That's cracking.
Thank you, Cheryl. So it sounds like for you got to the point where you needed to prioritize something, and you chose to prioritize your well-being, your sense of fulfillment over some stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it was work related, like I basically got to the point of where and I just walked away and I didn't have anything lined up. And it was like, I've got 2 young children, mortgage and everything else to pay. So, but actually I was just so much better for it. Like just the relief as soon as I'd handed it in, even working for notice, like, the difference is in me was just immense. So yeah, I've not looked back. And to be fair, by the time I got my notice, I did have a job. So yeah.
So it takes courage to do something like that, Cheryl, and I suppose a certain amount of trust. So you talked about what's the worst case scenario, and of course you've got children, you've got responsibilities, so you can't just say, right, yeah, that's it, I'm leaving everything, I'm off to join the circus or whatever it is. You've got responsibilities, financial or children or whatever else. You have to attend to those, of course. You have a duty of care there. So I'm not advocating that people just throw everything away overnight, but you've got to make a choice ultimately between following your heart, following your soul's yearning, if you're not already doing that, and staying safe. And I don't criticize people who do stay safe, because for them, that's the right thing. And we only ever change when we're ready, willing and able to change. So it sounds like for you, Cheryl, perhaps similar to myself, it got to the point where something had to change, and you courageously took that step without having a job to go to, without knowing what the future is. And as Lisa said there, we can be uncomfortable with change. Change can be scary, and the unknown can be scary. But for me, part of the spiritual journey has been about trusting that all will be well. And again, this isn't kind of airy-fairy, pie in the sky, kind of manifesting stuff. It's more about, if you give intention to what it is that is pulling you, your yearning, and you give that intention attention on a regular basis, you will make a success of it, regardless of whether this is a job or a relationship or a goal, losing weight, getting fit, whatever it is. Intention and attention. And if you put those two things together, you want it enough, you're ready, willing and able to change, you will change. And it's one of my biggest frustrations when somebody comes in and goes and whinges about whether it's a job or a person or a relationship or something, and you're like, well, actually it's totally within your grasp to do something about it if you really want to do it. So either shut up or put up type of thing. In not as easy as that. And like I say, I think, but there's in everything, there's got to be some sort of sacrifices. So, when you go through like your worst case scenario, it was obviously not having an income for us. And actually, we could do this for a certain period of time. And actually, I would have to be prepared that if I didn't get something that was, more on a previous salary level, then actually, I would be prepared to be, like having to take the kids out of background childcare and going and getting an evening or a weekend job, more on the minimum wage, just to bring that into the family. And I was like, do you know what? I was prepared to do that, because actually, it was for me and my headspace. But I'm lucky enough to have a supporting, very tolerant and patient supporting husband. And that's the other thing that we need.
And parents and family that. So
that is the other thing we need. Sorry to interrupt there, Cheryl. We need support from the people around us, whether that is our family or our friends or our employer, whatever it is, because making such a leap, a life-changing transformation requires support. But one of my favorite expressions is, if we want something enough, we'll find a way to make it happen. If we don't want it enough, we'll find an excuse. So, for some people, maybe they know what they want, but they're not ready, or they're not willing, or they're not able at this moment. They don't want it enough, and that's okay. But at some point, maybe that yearning will come and they will want it enough. And when they're ready to change, then they'll take the leap, or they'll go to therapy, or whatever it is that helps them to get over any fears that might be limiting them due to these scripts.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
So there's a book that I want to signpost people to. It's quite a long book, but it's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. And I'll try and pronounce the guy's name right, he's called Yuval Noah Harari. And there's a really interesting point in that, which is about the psychology of humans, why we are the way we are, why we behave the certain ways we do, and how society is formed. And it goes all the way back to early humans. And this is, I think, is really key to understanding why we so readily adopt these scripts. And it's because we want to fit in. So we're hardwired to be social creatures, because if you think back to early humans living on the savannah in little tribes, every day our life was under threat. So we had to stay with the tribe in order to survive. Otherwise, we might get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever's around in those days, or another tribe could come over the hill and come and attack us. So safety in numbers, and we're social creatures to have that human bonding as well. So we spent millennia in these tribes, and a really useful emotion developed called shame, which we might not like these days, but it serves a really good purpose, which is to keep us connected. And shame arises when we do something that we feel is going to, the tribe are not going to accept. So maybe we've stepped out of line, we've done something that we shouldn't have done. We feel that shame because if we're excluded from the tribe, we're going to die. We won't survive without the tribe. So that's why shame developed, and the ability to feel that and feel remorse, feel regret, and think, okay, I need to make reparations here in order to repair that rupture, get back in with the tribe so I can survive.
I've shared the link in the chat here to that book, and I'll also, for anybody who's watching this on catch up, I'll put it in the Mighty Networks as well, so that they've got that.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting angle on why we developed the way we developed. And if you think of that through the lens of modern culture, we still need that sense of social connection. We need to feel accepted. We need to feel loved. We need people to embrace us as we are. But that we don't always get that. We don't get unconditional love. We get conditional love. And this often starts in very young childhood. As infants, we crave connection, we crave attention from our parents, we cry if they break eye contact with us or they leave the room. We need them because we're incredibly vulnerable. We won't survive without them, just like we wouldn't survive outside of the tribe previously. And then as the child grows, they need to feel safe and loved and accepted. But parents also have their own agenda. They want their children to behave. Perhaps they want their children to be like them or to follow a certain career path or do well at school, get certain grades, whatever. So with all good intentions as parents, we might actually be inadvertently stifling the individual expression and creativity and stifling something of the character of that child in trying to turn them into this square peg and putting them into this round hole. So what happens is the child will pick up messages that if you do X, I will love you, I will accept you. If you don't do X, then I won't love you. Whether that's told explicitly or it's through actions or it's through withdrawing of affection or punishment, the child, again, very young, very vulnerable, will be wanting that parental approval. So will fit in to those parental expectations. And that carries on in school, as we were talking about earlier on before you joined us, Cheryl. And it's this thing of the difference between unconditional love, which is what we aim for as parents and what we aim for as therapists, to unconditionally accept our client, show them love without any kind of judgment, with what we tend to get from our parents, our managers at work, the people around us, our peer groups, of judging us. We're hardwired to judge, so you've not got the latest iPhone, you haven't reached this grade, or you've not performed well at work this month. We don't get that approval and we feel scared. So that keeps us really, really limited. So Lisa, I see that you're freezing in and out there. I don't know if your connection is a bit dodgy. Can you hear okay?
Yes, I can hear you absolutely fine. You're both frozen on my screen, but I can hear you fine. It's just come up with a lovely message of your connection is unstable. It's like, thank you very much for that.
At least it's your
technology is not doing well for me tonight.
At least it's the connection and not you that's unstable. That's all good. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense, Paul. Like, I think where, and especially when you look at the kids, I say my kids are 6 and 8. So yeah, so they're still young enough to kind of, like, say, where that prime age where you're really molding them into their little humans. And like I say, it is that molding of, and it's so right, excuse me, of what you do at this age and how it impacts them with, like, say, their morals and how they feel. And when absolutely rung alarm bells with me around that, wanting that unconditional love. So with that, for me, it's that acceptance. And actually, I always thought, oh, I'm not really a people pleaser. I absolutely am. And it is, it's going through the all the stuff with Red Bull and the Mike networks that actually I've been able to realize that I just need to be happy with what I'm doing, and as long as I'm okay with that decision, then that should be okay, and that should be enough.
Ripple effect, isn't it? It causes a ripple effect.
It does massively, and being able to go, do you know what? Yeah, I've made that decision to do whatever it may be, because for me, so yeah, I think that I'm still not 100% there on that one. I think it takes a long time to change and get into it, but yeah, I think realizing it and being aware of it is the first step.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the 4 steps to change, which I think I touched on earlier on, is first of all, awareness. So awareness that something's not right, or I want to change something. And then it's the readiness. So it's being ready, willing, and able to make that change. The 3rd step for me is then around having compassion for ourselves, for being the way we were or the way we have been, because of all these scripts and this conditioning that we've had. And compassion and forgiveness for the people that influenced that, whether that was our teachers, our parents, our friends, whatever it is, the media, social media, because everyone's doing the best, but we're all products of our own upbringing. So, it would be very easy for me to be angry at my parents for bringing me up the way they did. They did a pretty fine job, I think, in many respects, but they were products of their own upbringing, and their parents were products of their parents' upbringing. So we're all following this down the line. So if we've got compassion and forgiveness for ourselves and the people who've perhaps inadvertently wounded us, that's the 3rd step to change. Coming to peace with that is a big part of the therapy that I do. And then the 4th step is actually changing our behaviors. So we might have the intention, we might have the awareness, we might have the compassion and forgiveness, but change comes when we actually do something differently, whether that's taking a massive leap or doing small things each day, little steps towards being different or achieving that goal in a different way.
Absolutely. I do like those 4 steps. I think they're great ones, because it breaks it down, doesn't it? So you're actually chunking it down a little. We would call it baby steps. That's what babies do. They get up and they step forward and they stumble and they get back up. There's never a child that's been born that hasn't got back up, and I think we've got to be comfortable with that as adults, that we can get back up and it's okay.
Yeah. And falling down isn't a failure, it's a learning experience or a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Cheryl, what you were saying there, it sounds like you are on the journey, you're being kind to yourself, and in the way that you're parenting, you're bringing as much awareness as you can to try and be the best parent you can be. And that's all any of us can do.
Yeah, it is. And I think I've really started to have different conversations with the boys. So, my 8-year-old's just full of emotion and in tears, and I'm just like, that's cool, that's fine. And it's okay not to know why you're upset. Like, it's okay, sometimes I feel like that too. But it is. And so it's just having, like I say, that openness, really to sort of, like I say, I think, and like you say, that awareness part is huge for me. Because I think that's, like I say, well, it is the starting block, isn't it, of moving forward. And then like I say, learning from those twists in the road, I suppose, of when things have gone well and things haven't. No, definitely. And I think, like I say, each time we've kind of done that, I've made a couple of leaps. I think, like I say, walking away from a job to not having one was one massive risk in one respect, but actually it gave me confidence to do other steps, to change direction again. And I think that's, I think once you kind of start it, you then go, well, it'll be fine though, won't it?
Yeah. So you can build that resilience and that confidence by proving to yourself that, yeah, I took this leap, and do you know what? The fear was there, and it was there for a reason, to keep you safe. But you overcame that. You thought, actually, yeah, this hasn't been terrible, and actually, I feel better because of it. It gives you a springboard to go on and do the same again.
And I've done the same again. So I've changed job again and kind of gone, because I kind of more fell into one and was like, right, okay, yeah, so it looked like a good opportunity. I'm going to learn, and it's going to be what was the right around the right people that I knew that I'd worked with before, that I knew in a new organisation, that I knew who my line manager would be, to have that support. So I knew that I could do that, because it was quite a big leap.
Yeah. So your courage has bred more courage.
Yeah, it has, because then I've kind of gone back and gone, right, well, actually, do you know what? I've always been a bit of a workaholic, and like, right, okay, I want striving for, the next thing. And actually, like, my next thing was actually taking a step back and a pay cut and and going, do you know what? I don't need that. What I want is time with my boys, and what I want is to be able to come home and have some sort of switch off and not be sat on the M1 and working out my car, and so that kind of thing. So it's and don't get me wrong, it might be in a few years' time, go back up that journey and go back, but currently that's not what I want. So it's kind of it's given me the courage to go, do you know what? And it's given me the courage that if it's the wrong decision, that actually that's also okay, because I thought about, it wasn't a rash decision that I was just like, oh, sod it, I'm going to go and do that. It was thought about, it had the conversation, we decided as a family that I'd do it. And then if it doesn't work, well, it's absolutely working 6 months on, but if it doesn't work, then, then we'll find something else.
Yes, because everything is temporary. Everything's temporary.
Nothing in a permanent place, is it? So.
Exactly. Whenever we make a change, whether it's a change of a job or a move house, whatever it is, it's temporary. Everything in this life is temporary. So I think what I see in my client work quite often is that fear of, oh gosh, but what if this is the wrong decision? And I think, well, why do we have to label it as right and wrong? Try it. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back or go a different way. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to look at it as a forever change. Yeah. And just to come back a couple of minutes ago, you said something, Cheryl, about your parenting that I really liked, around allowing your boys to cry and saying, that's okay. I feel like that sometimes too. So 2 really powerful things there for me, which I'm constantly banging on about in my work with men in particular. One is that it's okay to cry, because many of us get the script as we're growing up that it isn't okay for boys or men to cry, or indeed to show any emotion apart from anger. Anger's allowed, but vulnerability, absolutely not. So you're setting up a good model there. And also in saying, it's okay to feel this way. I feel this way sometimes too. You're modeling, again, vulnerability and honesty and authenticity, which will help them to mirror their own feelings and accept their own feelings. So that's really good.
Yeah, there is, and there is those days, and I do suffer with like anxiety and such, like, so when you're having one of those, you're just having one of those crappy days, and and I can be honest with the boys and go, no, do you know what, like, I just need some me time, and we're just going to do this today, and you're going to go out with daddy because I just need some space, and then and Alfie, my eldest, will come to me and say, I just don't want to play with Freddie. I just want to do what I want to do, just me. And I'm like, that's fine. We can support that. So you can, they need that their own headspace.
Yeah, you're allowing them to be themselves, and that's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about today, where people aren't allowed to be themselves, or they're forced into these round holes, square pegs, whichever way around you want to look at it. Yeah. And for me, what I see in various networks, with my psychotherapy work, with my mental health first aid work, and just out in society, I see huge amounts of depression, anxiety, self-harm, eating disorders, other mental ill health. It's an epidemic, and so much of this for me is based on the messages that we're getting. And this relentless pressure that's born of comparison and judgment and negativity. and people are feeling all of that pressure, and social media feeds it in a massive way.
Oh, yeah.
And they're also, again, not everybody, but so many people are feeling a lack of meaning, a lack of hope, a lack of connection to their own nature and the outside nature. And yeah, you know, this is why we've got such high rates of suicide in this country and across the developed world. Actually, this isn't just a UK thing. Yeah, so all of this.
And I think, yeah, I just think there's a massive, with social media and stuff, I think there's just this massive kind of, and you've got access to everything. Whatever you want, you can have. Whatever you think you can do. And you're like, but what people don't realise that actually is that journey to get there, like it doesn't happen like that. And I think it's, so when you look at the, you know, the social story, it looks as though people can just, you know, go and do this and become
Your best life on show, isn't it? It doesn't show you what's happening behind the scene.
I mean, I would call it brag book, not Facebook. I'm like quite fine. Yeah, like why would you post negative stories on there? Like, you know, you don't want to advertise that, that's fine. But it's people looking at it and not understanding that or not seeing that. And I think sometimes that, yes, knowledge is power in some respects, but when you get access and know everything, that actually you miss a step. You miss the exploring, you miss, you know, how to get there, you miss, you know, because you just get straight there to the answer. I just I think about it like, you know, Google, and going from using Google Maps to using a map book, you're gonna get lost, aren't you? Or you can't from there, and like you learn from your mistakes and journeys along the way, whereas actually when it's already been done and you've always got a clear path, and you know, if there's a traffic jam up ahead and then you get to change direction, you know, then it's, you miss it, don't you? Do you know what I mean? So I just think sometimes with the social media and the access to everything on the internet, you miss those deviations.
Yeah,
I think that stops it.
Yeah, the metaphor of the path and the maps that you're talking about there, Cheryl, you know, I think we've all got an inner map. It's our intuition or your soul or your spirit, call it what you want, but we all have our own path. We're all unique, beautiful souls, and we're kind of forced into these little boxes to feel accepted or to feel enough, but actually we're all enough already. We don't need social media likes, we don't need cars, we don't need all of these status symbols to be enough. But this is what the society is based on. It's what capitalism is based on. It's fear of not being enough. And if you're not enough, you won't feel accepted and you won't feel good about yourself. Hence all of these mental health issues and people having crises when they get to midlife, perhaps, because they're looking for something more. So for me, it's a choice between fear and love. And many of us subscribe to fear because going outside of that it feels too scary. So we'll fit in. But if we do choose love and follow the passion of being the ballerina, as Lisa was saying earlier on, or whatever it is, that's what brings joy. That's what makes our soul come alive. And I think we can't fail but to find contentment and freedom and peace and inner harmony with ourselves and with nature when we do that. Yeah, so it's very powerful. It's prevalent. It's there all the time. This pressure's there all the time, and I don't think any of us are immune unless we've reached some kind of state of enlightenment. Buddhist monks maybe are there. I'm not there yet, you know. And I think an hour ago, before I came on this call, I was here in a scruffy old jumper. And I thought, I'm going to get changed. I'm going to brush my hair because I want to look smart and professional and come across better. And I don't want people to think I'm a slovenly scruff. So, you know, I still care about what people think.
It's still there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but not as much. And my guide now is my inner world. And I think what you were describing earlier on, Cheryl, about, you know, you're doing what's right for you now. That is what we call the internal locus of evaluation. Yeah. So we're judging who we are, how we are, what we do, based on our own heart, our own soul, our own sense of judgment, rather than seeking approval externally, which is perhaps a healthier place to be from a kind of heart and soul perspective.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that, when I'm happier and therefore I'm healthier, it's better for my boys. So, and they're not bothered about the bits of trivia. All they want is me to be there, and be with them. They're not worried about all the extra stuff. Yeah, and I think that's the yet word, because like I say, that it will come, and they will become teenagers and be exposed to all the peer pressure and stuff. And they've got to go through that. They've got to realize, and they've got to go through that journey themselves. So it's not about saying no, you don't, because you need to, don't listen to anybody else. You do what you do, because there is an element of having to listen to other people, because that's how society works and how you have friends. And it's a compromised journey when you find love. It's never just a straight easy ride, is it? So however, there is that still being happy and content with yourself, that compromise doesn't jeopardize that.
And I like that word, contentment. If we're feeling content, to me that is a more a state of more longevity than perhaps happiness, which could be more transient. But you're right, it does take time to unpick all of these scripts. And in therapy, I generally do open-ended or long-term psychotherapy. And I support clients to acknowledge that those scripts are there. So again, it's the awareness as the first step. Start to unpick them. Where do they come from? Are they true? Challenge those scripts, and over time, overcome those scripts. But again, doing it with compassion and not necessarily throwing them all out of the window, because although those scripts can be limiting, they can also keep us safe. So you've got to bring some kind of cognitive and practical aspect to it, like you did, Cheryl, around, what's the worst case scenario? Can we afford to do this? I can always go back or get a different job if this doesn't work out. So you've got to be quite pragmatic and earthy about it as well. But yeah, the limiting scripts can keep us small, but are they true? Are they getting in the way?
I like that. Are they true? Because there is that element of, like, you just make your own story up, don't you? Of like, oh, well, she said, she said that because of this and this. But was the this and this actually true? Like, are you just making that kind of thing? And I think that, although yes, it's about, am I happy with what I'm doing? Actually, I set high expectations of myself. And it's whether that is, is needed. So actually sometimes there's frustration because I thought I was going to do that, and that's what I needed to do because I wanted to do that. Oh yeah, but was that even realistic to start off with? Probably not after.
When we're hearing scripts every day from the people around us, our loved ones, people we respect, and we've heard these perhaps since we were very impressionable, vulnerable children, we are going to believe them. They're going to be in our blood almost. But I think there's something beyond that. There's a deeper truth in all of us, beyond all of the thoughts and the scripts and everything that we've been through. I think our soul knows the truth, actually. And one of the models that I use is called the elements model, and that's earth, air, fire, and water. So the earth is the kind of pragmatic stuff. Air is about thinking, water is about emotions, and fire is about, I suppose, creativity, courage, bravery, assertiveness, humor, all of that type of stuff. So one way you can look at this is, okay, well, which of these is out of balance? Is my fire been distorted into anger? Am I angry at the world when actually I could look at myself and think, actually I could be sabotaging myself here, and I can make a change here. Or maybe the water is blocked and you're not showing your emotions. And that, for me, that's my understanding of depression. You think of depression, the word depress means to push down. If we're pushing down our emotions, we're pushing down perhaps our soul's yearning then of course we're going to get depressed, because our soul is saying, hello, this isn't what you should be doing.
Yeah. No,
So
that makes sense.
it does take time to work through all of these beliefs, the scripts, the wounds. It's not an easy path, as perhaps you found, Cheryl, but it's a very super rewarding one. And we're all so much more than these scripts. We're all unique, beautiful souls. There's nothing wrong with us. We're all enough. We might have all been through some difficult times, but if we can just peel back the layers of these scripts and reconnect with our true nature, that is a really powerful, empowering and inspiring way to be. So,
yeah. She keeps disappearing, and she'll be back in a minute. Yeah, no, totally. It's and I really like that element way of you describing it. I've not heard that or come across that before. That's really great. I don't know, it's really relatable. You know, and you kind of looking for that balance.
Yeah, it is. I think life is all about balance, and within each of those elements is a set of qualities. And you know, we can drill down into those qualities and think, which of these qualities am I not manifesting, or which have been distorted and is coming out as rage or some other secondary emotion. So yeah, there's lots to work on when people are ready, willing, and able. And I suppose I'd say there's a couple of tips, and then perhaps open it up to any questions, and then there's a visualization we can do. So if a massive red flag for me is the word should, you know, so I think whenever someone says I should do X, I think, okay, where's that should coming from? Because that to me sounds like external pressure, external scripts are saying this is how you're supposed to be in order to fit in. So whenever I hear that word, I think, oh, what does that mean? Why should you be doing that? Maybe you could be doing it, but do you want to? Is that actually what you're yearning to do? Is that true to you? And the other one is when the urge to fit in, when you notice that, I would say just pause and just breathe. And there's a lady called Tara Brach, who I'm a massive fan of. She's a psychologist and a Buddhist teacher. She's got loads of free podcasts and stuff online. And she has a technique called RAIN, which is it's an acronym for bringing mindfulness and compassion to our experience, whatever emotions, whatever thoughts we're experiencing. So if we're experiencing a difficult feeling, maybe we're feeling guilty, maybe we're feeling depressed, maybe we're feeling disconnected in some way. The R is just to recognize it. So you name the emotion. It's really helpful just to say, okay, what emotion am I feeling right now? Okay, I'm feeling disgust, I'm feeling shame, I'm feeling sadness, whatever it is. And really connect with that emotion. The A is to allow it to be there, because it's serving a purpose, it's telling you something. So rather than push it away or try and numb the sadness by, you know, getting busy or watching Netflix or drinking alcohol, whatever it is, just allow it to be there. And then the I is to investigate, which is kind of 20% cognitive about what's this about actually, but it's 80% more somatic. So I encourage my clients just to find where does this live in your body, this feeling of sadness or grief or rage or whatever it is, where does it live in your body, and connect to that space. And then ask the question, you know, what is it that you're believing right now? Maybe there's a script that you're believing that I'm not beautiful enough, or I'm not successful enough, or I'm not enough, whatever it is, that script. And you can turn that around. And this is where the N comes in, the nurture. And this is to bring compassion to yourself, and also ask yourself the question of, what would I be without that script? Who would I be if I didn't believe that I wasn't enough in some way? And it can be a really powerful practice just to check in whenever you're feeling the urge to put something on social media or to follow something that really doesn't feel like your calling, just to check in with mindfulness and compassion for yourself. So that's all my kind of little tips. So yeah, if there's anything else you'd like to say or ask, please feel free. Otherwise, there's a visualization we can do.
That's fantastic. Is something I will set is to step back, breathe and go, is this the right thing to do? Is this I should be doing it, or I could be doing it? I think that's, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, you're dropping in and out a bit there, Lisa, with the connection, but hopefully you'll be able to make the most of the visualization. Hopefully you can hear okay. Cheryl, is there anything else you wanted to say or ask or share before we go into that?
No, I think that was great. I like I said, I think there's really been some nuggets in there, like that rain as well, and that allowing. You know, sometimes, like I say, just like, I don't know. I think there's the elements of what you've said. I go, yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, I've not kind of really thought about it in that kind of structure or of why I feel better. Like, but you know, it's always one of those, well, you just need to go and have a good cry, because you just like allowing yourself to be there and do that. You know, or allowing yourself just to enjoy that positive moment or situation that's happening and just not think about anything else. Yeah, I think, but that actually puts it in a good context to sort of say, yeah, no, that's why I need to sort of do that, and encourage it a bit more, probably, actually.
Yeah, thanks for that reflection. And I think many of us push away the difficult emotions because they're difficult, you know, and we label them as negative emotions. When it's sadness or anger or rage or disgust, whatever it is, we label them, that's negative. I shouldn't be feeling this, or I don't want to feel this. But every emotion has a purpose, and it can be really helpful, and there's wisdom in that emotion. So if we can just sit with it, allow it to be there, not push it away, we can learn and grow and heal from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm going to encourage you to do, if it's okay, Cheryl, is just to mute yourself in case there's any background noise whilst we're doing this. And if you want to participate, what I'd say is, or people at home or people who are watching the recording later on, if you want to participate in this visualization, what I'd say is just find yourself a comfy spot, put your feet on the floor, so legs uncrossed if you can, and if you can sit upright with a straight back so that you're alert but not stiff, so kind of relaxed but also awake. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And for anyone who hasn't done a visualization or a meditation before, they're generally perfectly safe. You know, I'd say the only caution is if you've got any serious mental health diagnoses such as psychosis, it may not be helpful for you. So just keep yourself safe if you are, if that applies for you. Okay, so if you're ready, feel free to close your eyes if you're comfortable, and just take some deep, slow breaths. And if you'd like to place a hand over your belly and see if you can breathe deeply into your belly so that you can feel your hand rising and falling as you take these slow, deep breaths. And just concentrate on that sensation of breathing wherever it feels strongest for you. It might be in your belly, or in your lungs, or you might feel it in your nostrils. You might notice the air is slightly cooler as you breathe in, slightly warmer as you breathe out. Just try to keep focusing on your breath, and if you notice any thoughts coming in, that's okay, that's natural, it's what the brain does. But as soon as you notice the thoughts, just return to your breath. If you notice any tension in your body, just let it go. So maybe scan down from the top of your head. If you're noticing any tension in your brow, or your cheeks, or your jaw, Just let it go. Many of us hold tension in our neck and our shoulders. So maybe you might be able to drop your shoulders back or down to relax any tension in those muscles. And likewise, all the way down your arms, if there's any tension there, all the way down to the end of your fingers, just let it go. And then just scan down your torso, your chest, your back, your stomach, and release any tense muscles you notice there. And the same through your pelvic area, your thighs, your calves, through your ankles and all the way to the ends of your toes. Okay. So I'd like you to imagine that you're in a natural setting, maybe a field. You're surrounded by beautiful nature. And just notice what you can see. Maybe some flowers or trees or birds in the sky. What can you hear? What can you smell? Can you feel a breeze on your skin or a heat from the sun? And I'm going to invite you in your mind's eye just to walk through this field towards some woods. And as you approach the woods, notice what you smell. Notice what you feel underfoot. And as you make your way through the trees, you're heading slightly uphill. And in time, you come to a clearing and you can see a magnificent mountain in front of you and a pathway leading up to the top of the mountain. So I will invite you to continue walking down this pathway. And as you do so, just notice what you see, what you experience as you're working your way upwards. And the path gets steeper and a bit more rocky. You might find you have to clamber over some larger rocks as you make your way up the mountain. You feel safe. Whatever obstacles are in your path, you safely navigate. There might be some ledges or some branches to overcome. But you're making your way towards the summit. And as you near the summit, you come to a plateau, and you're aware as you reach the plateau that there is another being there. It's a benevolent being, it's a kind being. It might be a human, it might be a creature, it might be an energy that you can't make out the form of. Just connect with that. Whatever this being, this energy, this creature is, notice what you see. What does it feel like? How do you feel in the presence of this being? Just breathe in the energy that's coming from this being. and feel it flow through your body. And just notice what happens. What's it like to be in the presence of this being, this energy? And maybe it has a message for you. So just listen. Okay. Once you've received your message, you might want to respond or thank this being in some way before you turn and start to make your way back down the mountain. And as you retrace your steps, maybe you're clambering over some boulders and being careful as you walk down the path, down the mountain. Just notice how you feel. Notice what you're experiencing. You retrace your steps down and down. And you find yourself back in the woods. And you retrace your steps through the trees. Back to the field or other natural setting where you began. Just taking some deep breaths to ground this experience. And I'm going to start bringing you back now, slowly into the room. So just notice your feet on the floor. Start to bring some awareness to your fingers and your toes. Maybe give them a wiggle. Notice your back on the chair, your bottom on the chair. Take in some breaths. Notice what you hear around you in the room. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so if either of you would like to share, no pressure, but if you want to share how that was for you and what you experienced on the plateau, feel free. If you'd rather keep it to yourself, that's absolutely fine as well.
Spoke previously, Paul, in terms of
Oh, Lisa, I can't hear you.
trying to feel. Oh,
Do you want to try turning your camera off, Lisa? Sometimes the sound can be better when the camera's off, if you want to try that.
now, Emma. But ultimately, it's always a very calm experience. It's very much so. The food today was you've got this, very strong, very loud voice of you've got this, to which I just replied with thank you. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And Cheryl, do you want to share us all, or would you rather keep it to yourself?
Yeah, no, I think mine was just more of that kind of very similar to Lisa of just like carry on type scenario really. But because it was a bit more of a blurred sort of figure really rather than anything particular.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for participating in that. Thanks for sharing as well. You know, it's a unique experience for anyone who does that visualization. For some people, it doesn't work at all. For other people, they get something very powerful. And, you know, if I was to work in therapy with a client doing something like that, I'd then explore it with them around what was the meaning for you of that journey, of the being you encountered. I'd perhaps encourage them to draw the being. I've still got mine up on the wall next to my front door, and talk about the qualities of that being. So for some people, you know, it might be a lion, and what qualities does a lion represent? And they might say courage or pride or strength or whatever, you know. And the idea is really, for most people, the being they encounter is a version of them. It's their, you know, their spirit, or whatever you want to call it, their spirit animal, as you were saying, Lisa, before we started the session earlier on. So yeah, it can be really an energy that represents unfulfilled potential, or it could be your inner voice that's telling you to carry on, you've got this, you know. So it can be a really powerful practice as a one-off or as an ongoing practice to help you to manifest and connect with your inner power and intuition and soul.
Yeah. Thank you. And hopefully you can hear me. So much for your time. That was wonderful. That really was. Really enjoyed that. And I know it kind of it's time out of your day, so I do truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me, and thanks Cheryl as well, and Paul, who was here earlier. Thanks for your attendance. And if anyone wants to contact me, if I can be of any assistance with therapy or mental health training or anything else, feel free to send me an email or have a look on my website. So it's the website's pathlight.org.uk, and the email address is info@pathlight.org.uk. So feel free to contact me.
It's great. Thank you very much.
All of your details on. I'll share all of your details on the Mighty Networks group as well. So
super. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. And